What that means is if we find out that there's a vote coming up a day from now, every single person who has to vote will get calls before the vote happens. It also means if we find out a hearing is scheduled at the drop of a hat, I have gotten 20 people in the State House with 3 hours notice on the hearing. Because we set our infrastructure up that people know what's going on and they're ready to take action when it's important to take action. We also use postcards a lot. 40% of the people who work with Rural Vermont do not have access to the internet. But you can get mail delivered within 1 day. If I mail it on Monday, it's in your box on Tuesday. And so we utilize postcards a lot as a cheap way to connect with people. And we also do a lot of outreach activities throughout the legislative session so that we're updating people constantly on what's going on. We have a system where you can call our office any time of the day or night, and our outgoing voicemail message will have our current action alert, so that if you're not getting it by email, you can call in and find out what the update is. We send emails out once a month. Our email list is 2,220 people. I just updated it before I came here. So it's important, I mention all of this not to brag, but to say this is what's necessary to work at this level, to get something passed that might not be the legislator's priority. The other thing we worked on in this phase was fundraising, which isn't up there for some reason. And fundraising is really important. It's a drag to do it, but over the 2 years that we really put our efforts into this campaign, we spent about $35,000 on the campaign. That includes staff time, materials, speaker tours, all those kinds of things. And we needed to know up front that we had the money to make it through the entire campaign, because what's the point of starting if you're going to get all the way to the end and run out of money and then not make it? And we were really glad we had done that, because at the end of the campaign, it got a little exciting. We had the ramp way up at the end, which was kind of annoying, but nonetheless, we did it. Some of the other things that were happening in this phase in the summer and fall of 2007, it's really interesting that there's pieces missing. So I apologize for that. That should say summer and fall 2007. So we were researching answers to the questions we got from the Ag Committee back in the spring, and we were identifying key witnesses and making sure they were ready to come and testify when we needed them to, because we don't get to set the schedule. We have to work with the committee chair to set the schedule. In Vermont, the committee chairs have a lot of power. In some states, like I know in Hawaii, if you show up, you get to testify. In Vermont, everything happens at the discretion of the chair. No one, including the committee members, can speak in a committee unless the chair recognizes them in Vermont. Wow. So you need to know your rules, and you need to know how to work through that. The main questions that we had identified were about the market, interestingly. Our agriculture committee is a lot, there's several farmers on our House Agriculture Committee, and they were concerned that, if you flood the market, then it's going to be a worthless crop to farmers. And then you have all these farmers who have planted hemp speculating, and it's no good. And that was a concern because that actually happened in the organic market in Vermont when the organic movement first got strong. There was a problem where everybody went, and then you had more supply than demand because people didn't know what organic meant. And so people had lived through that, and they were concerned about that. It's not a problem right now, by the way, for the organic market.
It happened in Canada with hemp, actually.
Yeah, it happened in Canada with hemp. People had heard that, and so they were concerned. So we did some work to identify what's our market. As I mentioned, in Vermont, there's no higher value right now than local. And so we started with Vermont businesses. And we were able to identify that there was enough demand from Vermont businesses for Vermont grown hemp to buy all of the hemp that could possibly be grown in the state of Vermont in the current scheme. So right now, what we were told agronomically speaking, is that the best place to grow hemp in Vermont is where corn is currently being produced in the state. That's the kind of soil and conditions that you need. There's 90,000 acres where corn can be grown in Vermont. So we have 90,000 acres available for hemp. We probably could grow it in more places, but it would take a little bit more work. We were able to find people who are running businesses right now in the state of Vermont who could use 90,000 acres worth of hemp.
Wow.
Problem solved.
What product are you making from that?
Well, I'm going to tell you. So we had we have a business called Way Out Wax in Vermont. Does anybody know them? They're a candle company, great candle company. Now the nice thing about Way Out Wax is these are young entrepreneurs who moved to the state of Vermont because they have values that they believe the state of Vermont helps them to live by with their business. So they're the perfect witness, okay? They're the perfect people to bring into the legislature. They used to make candles from hemp oil. Now they make candles from soy oil because they can't get hemp oil in a way that works for their business. They figured out that they alone could probably use all of the oil from all of the hemp that could possibly be grown in the state, making candles, because they know what their demand is. If they decided to go back to hemp oil candles, they know what they could sell. They're also willing to buy the equipment to press the seeds. And they were willing to testify to this. They were actually one of our key witnesses and a great one. We also have a company called True Blue Green Foods. It's hard to say. Which is a young woman who makes raw food products, granola type products. She wanted to purchase locally produced hemp, seeds particularly. We have the Vermont Soy Milk Company, another young entrepreneur, a 7th generation farm family entrepreneur who's currently working on a project with a group of farmers who are growing organic soybeans in a certain area of Vermont, and the company is producing soy products from the soybeans. Well, they would like to do the same with hemp. They figured out they could modify their equipment, they could make hemp milk. They would have a huge demand, and they also had farmers who wanted to grow the hemp this way. We have Save the Corporations from Themselves. Probably some of you know them. They're a store that sells hemp fiber. Now they wouldn't be a direct customer because they don't have a processing facility, but they would be really interested in selling hemp clothing that was processed with Vermont hemp. It would be a value-added product for them. We also had a business that actually went out of business, another key witness called Hemp Mama. And this was a woman who made healthy hemp snacks. And she was a star witness because she makes these things called non-parallels, which are chocolate with hemp seeds on top. They're very yummy. She brought a huge box of them to the Agriculture Committee, and she was a great, and she testified, I went out of business because I don't have a source of hemp that I can rely on. If it were grown in the state of Vermont, I could go back in business and do what I love to do. So these were all key witnesses. We also have the Vermont Biofuels Association. Some of you may know Nataka White. He worked on the study that happened in the 90s in Vermont. And he was able to talk about the energy potential for growing hemp. One of the things that we found that farmers were really interested in is growing the crop for seed to take advantage of the market, but then using the stalk for energy production or for organic bedding. There's a huge demand for organic bedding in the state of Vermont, and not enough supply. A lot of the dairy farmers use a bed pack system where they're layering bedding each week or each day in their barn all through the winter, and then in the summer they turn it and compost it. But that has to be certified organic on an organic dairy farm. They can't just use any kind of bedding.